Hey everyone. Are you ready to really supercharge your mornings and take your English to the next level?
I know I am.
Well, get this. We're diving deep into Rise and Shine, English learning through morning routines.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's all about how crazy successful people, like CEOs and stuff, plan their mornings.
I've always wondered what they do.
Me too. And the best part, this source connects it all back to learning English.
So it's like a double whammy.
Exactly, double the benefits. Oh, and get this, the source starts with this stat that blew my mind.
Okay, hit me with it.
92%, that's 92% of CEOs exercise before work.
Whoa, 92%. Seriously.
Yeah, a Harvard study found that. It makes you think, right?
For sure, are those early morning workouts their secret weapon or something?
Right, like maybe there's a connection between hitting the gym and, running a huge company.
Gotta be more than just a coincidence.
Totally. And even if we're not all aiming to be CEOs, it got me thinking about my own morning routine or lack thereof.
Uh-huh, yeah, mornings can be rough.
Tell me about it. I hit the snooze button way more than I'd like to admit.
Well, maybe this rise and shine method can help with that.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm really curious to see what it's all about. So where do we even begin?
Well, the source jumps right into this whole success vibe, focusing on three keywords: productivity, mindfulness, and consistency.
Okay, but those sound like, just buzzwords.
Right. Are they just trendy terms or is there actually something to them?
Exactly, but the source actually does a good job of explaining what they really mean when it comes to morning routines.
Okay, I'm listening.
Like productivity isn't just about working harder.
Yeah, it's got to be more than that.
It's about being smart and efficient with your time, being strategic.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
And that's where I think people like Elon Musk come in.
Oh, yeah. What's he got to do with this?
Well, the source talks about how he divides his day into these 5-minute slots.
5 minutes. That's intense.
I know, right? It sounds kind of crazy, but it actually reminded me of the Pomodoro technique.
Oh, I've heard of that. That's where you work in 25-minute chunks, right?
Exactly. And then you take a 5-minute break and you just keep repeating that.
Yeah. I've tried that before. It really helps me focus.
All right. So maybe Elon's 5-minute thing is a supercharged version of that.
Like he's hacking his productivity or something.
Totally. But let's be real. Not everyone is wired like Elon Musk.
Yeah, no kidding. Some of us need a little more flexibility.
Exactly. And that's why the source also talks about totally different approaches, like Michelle Obama's routine.
Oh, interesting. What does she do?
So she makes her physical and mental well-being a priority.
Like self-care.
Yes. She exercises first thing every morning.
First thing, I like that. It's like a no excuses kind of thing.
Right. And that really speaks to the mindfulness part of it all, I think.
It's about starting the day with something that, centers you, makes you feel good.
Exactly. It's not just about trying to cram as much as possible into your morning.
More like
Yeah.
setting a positive tone for the whole day.
Exactly. Okay, and then there's J.K. Rowling.
Oh, wow. Bringing out the big names. What's her routine like?
Well, the source says she writes, at the crack of dawn.
I love that phrase, at the crack of dawn. So poetic.
I know, right? It's like that magical time just before the sun comes up.
Yeah. But it also shows how important consistency is.
Totally. She found a time that works for her creative process.
And she sticks to it.
Day in and day out. So whether it's, 5-minute slots, early morning exercise, or writing at the crack of dawn.
The common thread is they're all about establishing routines
That support their goals.
and then actually sticking to them.
Okay, but how does all of this tie back to learning English? That's what we're really here for, right?
Right. That's where this source gets really clever. It
Mhm.
starts weaving these English learning tips into the routines.
Okay, give me an example.
So remember Elon Musk's crazy schedule?
Yeah, the 5-minute slots.
Yep. The source uses that to talk about using the present simple tense for habits. Like, he starts work at 7 a.m.
Okay, I get it. But isn't the present simple a bit basic for our listeners?
You're right. We can definitely go deeper with the English learning, like with Michelle Obama's routine and how she exercises first thing.
So we could talk about other ways to use that phrase, first thing.
Exactly. Instead of just Michelle exercises first thing, we could say things like, first thing after I wake up, I like to. Or, I always check my email first thing in the morning.
That's a great idea. It's like giving our listeners practical phrases they can use in their own lives.
Exactly. And it's not just about vocabulary. We can also dive into some, more challenging grammar.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So with J.K. Rowling writing at the crack of dawn, we could talk about using time prepositions better, or even describing specific times of day.
I love it. We don't want to underestimate our listeners. They're here for a deep dive.
Right. They want the good stuff.
So to really connect all of this to their lives, I think we should take a moment for them to reflect.
Like a pause for self-discovery.
Haha, exactly. So think about this. What does your ideal morning look like? What's the first thing you'd do?
And here's the key question. What English phrases could you naturally include in your routine?
Ooh, I like that. It's all about making it personal, right?
Absolutely. Don't worry, we'll give more specific examples and tips later.
But for now, just let those ideas, percolate.
I love that word percolate. Like
Yeah.
a good cup of coffee in the morning.
Ooh, speaking of coffee, in the next part, we'll actually break down the source's step-by-step guide to creating an English-focused morning routine. It's full of practical stuff you can start using right away.
Awesome. I can't wait. So we've given you some time to really think about that ideal morning of yours. Now let's get into the actual how-to,
Yeah.
how to actually build a morning routine that really helps your English.
Yeah, give us the steps, the actual blueprint for trading in those snooze buttons for some serious language gains.
Okay, so the source starts with something we talked about earlier, waking up to an English alarm. But they take it a step further. They suggest using specific phrases like time to rise and shine or even good morning world.
Okay, wait, but wouldn't that feel kind of, I don't know, forced or even cheesy? I'm all for using English, but I don't want to feel like I'm in some bad sitcom first thing in the morning, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I think the key here is personalizing it. So instead of just using those generic phrases,
Yeah.
maybe you pick something that actually resonates with you. Could be a quote that you find inspiring or even just a simple good morning in your target accent.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's about making it authentic, making it your own. So what's next? What's the next step in this awesome morning routine?
Well, next is hydration. We all know how important it is to drink water, especially right when you wake up. But the source suggests adding a little English twist to it. Try saying things like, I'm fueling my brain, or cheers to a productive day as you take those first sips.
Okay, that's kind of fun. I can see how that ties into that whole positive affirmations thing. But what about actually learning? Isn't there a danger of getting too caught up in these little rituals and forgetting about the actual English part?
Yeah, and that's where the next step comes in, setting aside dedicated time for learning. The source recommends at least 10 minutes each morning, just for focused English study.
10-minute. Okay, that seems pretty doable, even for people who say they, have no time.
Right, exactly. And the best part is you can, totally tailor it to fit your style and your goals.
Right.
Maybe you spend those 10 minutes reviewing some flashcards or listening to an English podcast or even reading a short news article.
When we were talking about Michelle Obama exercising first thing, it made me think for a lot of people, the morning is prime workout time. Do you think you could work English into a workout routine? Oh, that's a great idea. You could listen to a workout video in English. Or even just mentally describe what you're doing in English as you're doing it. I'm lifting the weights. I'm stretching my legs.
Yeah, I love that. It's finding those creative ways to sneak English into stuff you're already doing. Like sneaking in those veggies without even realizing it.
Uh-huh, exactly. And speaking of sneaking things in, the source also recommends using English for other mundane tasks, like getting dressed. So instead of just, mindlessly throwing on clothes, you could practice saying things like, I'm putting on my shirt, I'm tying my shoes.
It's funny, right, how we totally overlook these everyday moments as chances to practice. It's we think we need to be at a desk with a textbook to officially be learning.
It's so true. But honestly, language learning can happen anywhere, anytime. It's about being present and being mindful and finding those little opportunities to, to really engage with the language.
And those little moments, they add up, right, over time, especially if you're consistent. Which brings us back to consistency. The source really emphasizes the importance of regularly reviewing and reflecting on what you're learning. They suggest journaling in English, even if it's just a few sentences each morning.
Yeah, journaling is great, but it's not for everyone. Some people find it kind of intimidating or even a little boring. So what are some alternatives, that still have that reflective element?
Well, one thing you could do is just take a couple of minutes to mentally recap your day, either the day before or the day ahead, but in English, or even record yourself talking, which is a great way to track your progress and pinpoint areas you want to work on.
Oh, that's a good idea. It's like having a conversation with yourself in English.
Exactly. And don't sweat the mistakes, you know? It's all about just getting the practice in.
Okay, so we've talked about waking up with English, hydrating with English, even getting dressed with English. But there's one big thing we haven't really touched on yet, pronunciation.
You're right. The source actually has a whole section on pronunciation, how it's so important for clear communication and all. But instead of just listing practice words like prioritize or discipline, I think we can make it more, more interactive and fun.
Okay, I'm listening. What do you have in mind?
Well, how about we each pick a word that we personally find tricky to say and then break it down together, like syllable by syllable. You talk about the sounds, the stress, even share some tips we've picked up along the way.
I'm in. This is your area of expertise, though, so you go first. What's a word that trips you up? All right, challenge accepted. I gotta admit, the word rural always gets me. I always like overemphasize the R. How about you? What word trips you up?
Hmm. Comfortable.
Yeah.
Always used to get me. It's so long, and I would just get totally tongue-tied trying to get it out smoothly.
Oh, comfortable is a tough one. So many syllables. Maybe we could like break it down together. Comfortable. I think the trick is to not rush it and really hit that second syllable, for.
Yeah, that helps a lot. And it also helps to think of the or sound as one unit, not two separate sounds.
Yeah.
Come FOR table.
Ooh, that's good. I'm going to try that with rural. Rural. Still sounds kind of clunky.
Maybe focus on that R at the beginning. It's a softer R sound than the one in comfortable, almost like a gentle roll.
Right.
Roll.
Rural. Yeah. That's way better. I think I'm getting it. It's amazing how just like breaking it down like that can make such a big difference.
Right. And it just goes to show that pronunciation is something you can always work on. It's a skill. Even native speakers have words they trip over.
So true. It's all part of the process, right? And speaking of the process, I think we've pretty much covered everything from the source on building a morning routine that really helps with English.
I think so. We've covered a lot of ground, waking up with English, sneaking into your workout, even just getting dressed.
But before we wrap things up, I want to go back to that quote, win the morning, win the day. I mean, it's such a simple idea, but it really gets at how powerful a morning routine can be.
For sure. It's all about setting yourself up for success,
Hmm.
right? Not just with English, but with everything.
And for our listeners who are, really working on their English, I think it's especially important. Imagine like starting your day feeling confident and ready to use the language. That energy, it can help you get through any challenges you face, throughout the day.
It's true. It's like creating this positive cycle where, little wins in the morning lead to even bigger wins later on.
Hmm.
And over time, those wins add up. They give you this momentum, this drive to keep going, to reach your goals.
Yeah, I love that. It's like that snowball effect. The more you put into your English, the more you get out of it, and the more you want to keep learning.
Exactly. And it all starts with those small choices you make each morning. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a challenge. Think about one small change you can make to your morning routine that will really set you up for success with your English. Maybe it's setting your alarm to an English phrase, or listening to a podcast while you get ready, or just spending 5 minutes reviewing vocab. Whatever works for you. Commit to it for a week. Just see what happens.
You got this. And remember, small steps, if you do them consistently, they can lead to some pretty incredible results. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into English learning morning routines. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and keep speaking English.